Okay, Chapter 11 of Between Shades of Grey. The sun began to set. Mother braided my wavy, sweaty hair. I tried to count how many hours we had spent in the prison box, and wondered how many more we had to go. People ate the food that they brought. Most shared, some didn't. Lena, that loaf of bread, Mother began. I shook my head. Was that loaf of bread still there, sitting on my desk? I don't have the bread, I replied. All right, said Mother, taking some food to Ona. Her lips pursed. She was disappointed. Andreas sat with his knees drawn up, smoking a cigarette. He was staring at me. How old are you? I asked. 17. He continued to stare. How long have you been smoking? What are you, the police? He said, and looked away. Night came. It was dark in our wooden box. Mother said we should be thankful they left the door open. I wasn't about to thank the NKVD for anything. Every few minutes I heard their boots marching by. I couldn't sleep. I wondered if there was a moon out, and if so, what it looked like. Papa said scientists speculated that from the moon, the earth looked blue. That night I believed I would draw it blue and heavy with tears. Where was Papa? I closed my eyes. Something bumped my shoulder. I opened my eyes. It was lighter in the train car. Andreas stood above, nudging me with his shoe. He put his finger to my lips and motioned with his head. I looked over at Mother. She slept, clutching her coat tightly around her. Jonas was gone. My head snapped around looking for my brother. Andreas kicked me again and waved me forward. I got up and stepped between the human bundles toward the door of the train car. Jonas stood at the opening, clutching the side. Andreas said that an hour ago. A long train came in. Someone told him it was full of men, whispered Jonas. Maybe Papa is on it. Who told you that? I asked Andreas. Don't worry who told me, he said. Let's look for our fathers. I looked down off the train. The sun had just appeared on the horizon. If Papa was at the train station, I wanted to find him. I'll go and let you know what I find out, I said. Where's the train that pulled in? In the back of us, but you're not going, said Andreas. I'll go. How far are you going to find my father? You don't know what he looks like. I snapped. Are you always so pleasant? Said Andreas. Maybe you can both go, suggested Jonas. I can go by myself, I said. I'll find Papa and bring him to our car. This is ridiculous. We're wasting time. I shouldn't have woken you up, said Andreas. I looked out of the train car. The guard was 100 feet away, his back to me. I hung down off the edge and dropped quietly to the ground, scrambling under the train. Andreas beat me there. Suddenly we heard a yelp and saw Jonas jumping down. Andreas grabbed him and we tried to hide behind one of the wheels peeking under the train. The NKVD officer stopped and turned around. I put my hand over Jonas's mouth. We crouched near the wheel, afraid to breathe. The officer resumed walking. Andreas peeked out the other side and waved us on. I crawled out. The back of our train car had Russian writing on it. Thieves and prostitutes, Andreas whispered. That's what it says. Thieves and prostitutes, our mothers were in that car, along with a teacher, a librarian, elderly people, and a newborn baby. Thieves and prostitutes? Jonas looked at the writing. I grabbed his hand, thankful he couldn't read Russian. I wish he had stayed on the train. Another line of red cattle wagons sat on tracks behind ours. The door, however, were closed and locked with large bolts. We looked around and then ran under the train, dodging the splatters of waste. Andreas looked on the bottom near a bathroom hole. A shadow appeared. What's your father's name? Andreas asked. Kostas Vikas, I said. Quickly, we're looking for Petras, Arvidas, and Kostas Vikas, he whispered. The head disappeared. We heard scuffling on the floor of the car. The head reappeared. Not in this car. Be careful, children. Be very quiet. We scurried from car to car, dodging droppings and knocking. Each time a head disappeared, I felt my stomach tighten. Please, please, Jonas would say. And then we move on with warnings of caution or messages for loved ones. We reached the 7th car. The man's head disappeared. It was quiet inside. Please, please, said Jonas. Jonas, Papa, we said, trying to not raise our voices. A match escaped across a wood plank. Papa's face appeared in the hole. He looked gray, and his eye was badly bruised. Papa, we're in a car over there. began Jonas. Come with us. Shh, said Papa. I can't. You shouldn't be here. Where is your mother? In the car, I said, happily yet horrified to see my father's bludgeoned face. Are you all right? I'm okay, he said. Are you okay? Is your mother okay? We're okay, I said. She doesn't know we're here, said Jonas. We wanted to find you, Papa. They broke into our house and, I know, they're attaching our train to yours. Where are they taking us? I asked. To Siberia, I think. Siberia? That couldn't be right. Siberia was a half a world away. There was nothing in Siberia. I heard Papa talking inside the train car. His arm came out of the hole holding some scrunched up material. Take this jacket and these socks. You'll need them. More noise came from inside. Papa handed out another jacket, 2 shirts, and more socks. Then handed down a large piece of ham. Children, split this. Eat it, Papa said. I hesitated and stared at the ham my father handed through the same hole people used as a toilet. Put it in your mouth now, he said. I tore the thick piece of ham in quarters and handed some to Jonas and Andreas. I put the last piece in my dress pocket for Mother. Lena, take this and give it to your mother. Tell her it's okay to sell it if she has to. Papa's hand came down to me. Holding his gold wedding band, I stared at it. Lena, do you understand? Tell her it's in case she needs money. I wanted to tell him we had already traded a pocket watch for Jonas. I nodded and put the ring on my thumb. Not able to swallow the ham past the lump in my throat. Sir, said Andreas, is Petrus Arvadas in your car? I'm sorry, son, he's not. Said Papa, this is very dangerous. You all get back to your train. I nodded. Jonas, yes, Papa. Jonas said, peering up at the hole. You're very brave to have come. You must all stay together. I know you will take good care of your sister and your mother while I am away. I will, Papa, I promise, said Jonas. When will we see you? Papa paused. I don't know. Hopefully soon. I clutched the bundles of clothes. Tears began dropping down my cheeks. Don't cry, Lena. Courage, said Papa. You can help me. Look up. I look up at him. Do you understand? My father looked at Andreas hesitant. You can help me find you, he whispered. I'll know it's you. You just like munch. But you must be very careful. But, I started, uncertain. I love you both. Tell your mother I love her. Tell her to think of the oak tree. Say your prayers, children, and I will hear them. Pray for Lithuania. Now run back. Hurry. My chest hurt and my eyes burned. I started to walk but stumbled. Andreas caught me. Are you okay? He asked. His face looked soft, concerned. I'm fine, I said, quickly wiping my eyes and pulling free of his grasp. Let's go find your father. No, you heard him. Hurry back. Hurry, run back. Tell your mother what he said. But what about your father? I asked. I'm going to try a few more. I'll meet you back at our car. He said, just go, Lena. You're wasting time. I hesitated. Are you scared to go alone? No, I'm not scared, I said. My father said we should stay together. But we'll go by ourselves. I snatched Jonas by the hand. We don't need him, right, Jonas? Jonas stumbled, looking over his shoulder at Andreas. Chapter 12. Halt, a voice commanded. We were so close, nearly under a train car. NKVD boots marched toward us. I tucked my thumb and Papa's wedding band into my palm. Bhavani, the voice yelled. Jonas and I crept out from under the car. Lena, Jonas, yelled Mother. Leaning out of the train, the officer pointed his gun at Mother, signaling her to be quiet. He then circled around us, his boots coming closer with each turn. I felt Jonas edge up beside me. I tightened my fist, hoping the guard wouldn't see Papa's ring. We dropped some things down the bathroom hole, I lied, lifting up the bundle. Mother translated my words into Russian for the guard. The officer looked at the socks on top of the heap I was holding. He grabbed Jonas and began searching his pockets. I thought of the ham in my dress. How could I explain a slice of ham in my pocket when we were all so hungry? The guard shoved us both to the ground. He waved his rifle around our faces, yelling in Russian. I huddled near Jonas, staring down the barrel of his gun. I closed my eyes. Please, no. He kicked gravel at our legs and then spat. Devani, pointing toward the train car. Mother's face was ashen. She did a poor job of hiding her fear this time. Her hands trembled and she was clearly panting. You could have been killed. We're okay, Mother, announced Jonas. His voice shook. We went to find Papa. Where is Andreas? Mr. Mrs. Arvadas looked over our shoulders. He came with us, I said. But where is he? She demanded. He wanted to look for his father, I said. His father, she sighed deeply. Why doesn't he believe me? I told him again and again that his father. She turned around and began to cry. I realized I had made a great mistake. I should have not left Andreas behind. We found him, Mother. We found Papa, said Jonas. People crowded toward us. They wanted to know how many men were on the train, and if we saw their loved ones. He said he thinks we're going to Siberia, Jonas reported, and he gave us some ham. The three of us ate it, but we saved a piece for you, Lena. Give Mother the piece of ham. I reached in my pocket and handed the piece of ham to Mother. She saw it, the ring on my thumb. In case you need money, I said. He said you could sell it. And he said to remember the oak tree, said Jonas. Mother took the ring off of my thumb and put it to her lips. She began to cry. Don't cry, Mother, said Jonas. Girl, shouted the bald man, what else did you bring to eat? Lena, give this piece of ham to Mr. Saltus, said Mother, sniffling. He's hungry. Mr. Saltus, the bald man had a name. I moved toward him. His withering arms were green and purple with bruises. I held out the piece of ham. That's your mother's, he said. What else do you have? That's all he gave me. How many cars were on that train? I don't know, I said. Maybe 20? He said, we're going to Siberia? Yes, he's probably right. Your father, he said. Mother's crying subsided. I held out the piece of ham again. That's your mother, said the bald man. Make sure she eats it. I don't like ham anyway. Now leave me alone. He wouldn't come with us, my brother explained to Mrs. Arvadas. He and Lena started fighting, and he said he was going to check more cars. We weren't fighting, I interrupted. If they find him wandering around and discover he is the son of an officer, said Mrs. Arvadas. She hid her face in her hands. The gray-haired man looked his head and wound his watch. I felt guilty. Why didn't I stay with Andreas or insist he come back with us? I looked out of the train car, hoping to see him. Two Soviets pulled a priest down the platform. His hands were bound and his cassock was dirty. Why a priest? But then, why any of us? Chapter 13. The sun rose and the temperature in the car climbed quickly. The wet smell of feces and urine hovered over us like a filthy blanket. Andreas had not returned, and Mrs. Arvadas wept so hard it scared me. I felt sick with guilt. A guard approached the car and handed up a bucket of water and a bucket of slop. Everyone surged toward the buckets. Wait, said Mrs. Grubas, as she were directing her class. We must all take a bit to ensure everyone can eat. Slop resembled gray animal feed. Some children refused to eat it. Jonas found the package from Mother's cousin Regina. Inside was a small blanket, a sausage, and a coffee cake. Mother shared the food, giving small pieces to everyone. The baby continued to wail. Ona twisted and screamed right along with the child, who still refused to eat and looked a darker shade of pink. Hours passed. Andreas did not return. Mother sat down next to me. How did your father look? She asked, smoothing my braids and putting her arm around my shoulder. Not too bad, I lied. I put my head on her shoulder. Why are they taking us? It is really because Papa works at the university? That doesn't make sense. The bald man groaned. See, like him, I whispered. He's not a teacher. He's a stamp collector, and he's being deported, I said. He's not just a stamp collector, said Mother under her breath. Of that I am certain. He knows too much. What does he know? Mother sighed, shaking her head. Stalin has a plan, my love. The Kremlin will do anything to see it through. You know that. He wants Lithuania for the Soviet Union. So he's moving us out temporarily. But why us, I asked. They already moved into Lithuania last year. Isn't that enough? It's not just us, dear. I imagine he's doing the same to Latvia, Estonia, and Finland. It's complicated, said Mother. Try to rest. I was exhausted but couldn't sleep. I wondered if my cousin Joanna was also on a train somewhere. Maybe she was near Papa. Papa said I could help him. But how could I help him if we were really going to Siberia? I dozed off, thinking of Andreas, trying to see his face. As I walked by the piece, my feet stopped. The face, it was enchanting like nothing I had ever seen. It was a charcoal portrait of a young man. The corners of his lips turned up. Yet despite his smile, the pain on his face made my eyes well with tears. The subtleties within his hair blended so softly, yet created strong variation. I stepped closer to inspect Flawless. How did he achieve such sheer shade without so much as a pause or a fingerprint? Who was the artist and who was the young man? I looked at the signature. Munch, young lady, follow the group, please. That's part of a different exhibit, said our guide. Some of the students had complained earlier. How could they complain about a field trip to the art museum? I had been looking forward to it for months. The guide's shoes clacked on the tile floor. My body moved forward, but my head remained fixed on the drawing, fixed on the face. I rubbed my fingers together. A light touch, yes, but with confidence. I couldn't wait to try it. I sat at the desk in my bedroom. I felt the charcoal vibrate slightly as I pushed it across the page. The sound it made against the paper gave me chills. I bit my bottom lip. I ran my middle finger along the edge, softening the harsh line. Not quite, but almost. I pushed the tip of my finger through the dirt on the floor, drawing his name, Munch. I would recognize his art anywhere, and Papa would recognize mine. That's what he meant. He couldn't find me if I left a trail of drawings. He could find me if I left a trail of drawings. Chapter 14. When I woke, the car was dark. I moved to the front and hung my head over the side for air. My hair swung away from my neck, a rush of air swirled around my face, and I breathed deeply. Gravel crunched. I snapped my head up, expecting to see a guard. No one was there. The gravel shifted again. I dropped my head back down, looking under the train. A dark figure huddled near the wheel. I squinted, trying to focus in the low light. A bloody hand lifted toward me, shaking. I pulled back before realizing Andreas. I turned toward Mother. Her eyes were closed, her arms were wrapped around Jonas. I looked down on the train platform. The NKVD marched 2 cars down. Their backs to me. The little girl with the dolly sat on her knees and near the door. I put my fingers to my lips. She nodded. I lowered myself down the car, trying not to make a sound. My chest thumped, remembering the guard pointing the gun at me. I stepped closer and stopped. A truck drove by somewhere outside, its lights momentarily sweeping under the car. Andreas stared off with a blue, battered face. He had swollen pillows, 4 eyes. His shirt was covered in blood, his lips sliced. I knelt down beside him. Can you walk? A little, he said. I peeked out to see the guards. They stood in a group, smoking, 4 cars down. I tapped lightly near the bathroom hole. The grouchy woman's face appeared. Her eyes widened. I have Andreas. We need to get him back on the train. She stared at me. Did you hear me? I whispered. You have to pull him up. Move. Her face disappeared from the hole. I heard scuffling inside the car and glanced down to the guards. I slung Andreas's bloody arm over my shoulder and grabbed him by the waist. We rose and inched toward the door. The gray-haired man hung his head over, signaling us for us to wait. Andreas sagged on my shoulder, making my knees bend. I didn't know how long I could hold him up. Now, said the gray-haired man. I thrust Andreas toward the man, who, together with the others, pulled him up. I peeked out at the guards. Just as I moved, they turned and began walking toward me. Desperate, I looked around. I grabbed onto the undercarriage of the train and lifted my legs up, suspended under the car. The sound of the boots came closer and emerged near the wheel. I closed my eyes. They were speaking in Russian. A matchstick hissed and a glow appeared on the guard's boot. They chatted in low voices. My arms began to shake, trying to hold on. Hurry. I hung there. My hands began to sweat. I was losing my grip. Leave. A deep burning washed through the fibers of my muscles. Their conversation continued. Please, I bit my lip. Move. A dog barked. The guards walked toward the sound. Mother and the gray-haired man pulled me up. I slumped against the open door, grasping for air. The little girl with the dolly put her finger to her lips and nodded. I stared at Andreas. Dried blood caked his teeth in the corners of his lips. His jaw was swollen. I hated them, the NKVD and the Soviets. I planted a seed of hatred in my heart. I swore it would grow to be a massive tree whose roots would strangle them all. How could they do this? I asked aloud. I looked around the train car. No one spoke. How could we stand up for ourselves if everyone cowered in fear and refused to speak? I had to speak. I'd write everything down, draw it all. I would help Papa find us. Andreas shifted his legs. I looked down at him. Thanks, he whispered.